started in cheese, I want to think, about 10 years ago. At a small delicatessen where we ended up doing some cheese boards and making a lot of sandwiches that had quality things on them. You know, not like bonkers, but quality things on them. It was the first time I got to see fresh boucheron, first time I got to see all the fresh, sort of delicate goat's milk stuff. First time I got to open up a Gruyere, Emmentaler, and see them pour out those tears. First time I got to try really gnarly science experiment blues. All those things that you sort of fall into quickly and say, man, cheese is crazy. This shit is bonkers, I was never in food before, never really been involved in food, cooked for a little bit at real shitty kitchens as a teenager in high school, but always sort of avoided it. A lot of friends that were chefs and worked in restaurants, and it never seemed worth the trouble. But I did get involved in coffee very young, in the early 90s, and sort of saw how that thing unraveled before it was, just coffee like we know it today, quick and in cups and $4. There was a lot of confusion, a lot of don't understand. I was in a small town in the Midwest, so it was triple what it would have been in a larger place. And it gave you a real quick perspective on how people see specialty items. After that, I completely split off and worked in a small movie theater for many years, and eventually managed the projection back end of that place for a long time. And then, just by luck, found myself in this deli with an old friend who said, hey, do you want to work in my place for a while? You have nothing better to do. And I said, you are correct. And yes, I do. That job led me to doing other things in kitchens, even just for restaurant owners that we knew, which involved cheese, and getting to see food in general, not really cheese, but food in general from a very different way. It also gave me my first chance ever to see sort of food cost and how things run and how your back end runs in a business like that. So eventually I found myself moving to a larger city on the East Coast about 6 years ago. And when I got here, I, said, okay, I do not want to be a bartender or server, but I'd learned a little about wine, a little about beer, enough to bullshit. And the first place I stumbled across just happened to have a, 100 cheese cut to order case attached to it. I went in and asked, hey, I want to work in this, get down with this cheese shit over here. And they were like, we don't need cheesemongers. Trust me, we don't want to be a cheesemonger, but we really need servers and bartenders. I said, well, yeah, of course I can do that. I'm great at that. Whatever they'd said, I would have said I was good at it. But, I could smell desperation, which I like. So I started there and spent as much time as I could just sort of skulking around the cheese case and the retail section, small kind of specialty retail. I spent a lot of time talking to mongers and seeing what they were up to. It was a lot more interesting than the restaurant to me, certainly more interesting than the customers in the restaurant. The customers on the cheese side seemed to engage and like talking and were interested in what they were doing. They wanted to learn about stuff. So I spent as much time as I could over there. And eventually, because you show up enough and you're on time and you work hard, and I'm always a person who, if I'm going to be serving wine at a wine bar, then I'm going to learn, as much about wine as I reasonably can. I certainly have to cut myself off at some point because it just doesn't hold that much interest for me. But I think that they saw that I was motivated and, not a youngster. I was in my mid-30s. So they asked me if I wanted a promotion. They told me that would come along with a lot deeper involvement in the retail side of things, cheese buying, retail buying, charcuterie. And that was what I was sort of interested in anyway. So I said, yeah, and I moved over. I found out really quickly that hanging around retail and watching mongers and talking to mongers was really, really different than having to suddenly, run a team of mongers. So suddenly I had employees who were looking at me, and some of them were long-term and were excellent at their job and knew, a lot about cheese, a good amount about cheese, and were very, very good at sales. Customers loved them, a lot of regulars. But some were new, and I started walking that sort of tightrope of motivating employees of any kind. But I found at that moment for me with cheesemongers, it was a lot more difficult because I just didn't have enough background in sort of what they were supposed to be doing. What did they do? What was their job? Obviously, you make sure that the cases are running. You make sure things are on the shelf. You make sure cheese is in the case, and you use the POS. But, what the fuck are they really doing? How are they staying motivated to, want to be here? How are you, back there teaching them every story behind every cheese? It's not possible. I found that you're ordering things, and I was learning too. So I didn't know shit, and I would do a little research on a cheese and find out it was interesting. So we bring that in, put it in the case. Nobody's buying it. No one's buying this cheese that I thought was so interesting. But then you find out quickly that the mongers don't know anything about it, and it's not their fault because it just showed up one day out of nowhere. And it becomes, stressful and frustrating and confusing. So, I think a lot about sort of how we all learn as different people. And I know that for me, I'm super audio focused, and I love, the YouTube deep dive, podcast deep dive. And I found out really quickly that if you're interested in cheese and you want to know about stories and cheese makers, flavor profiles, pairings, all of those things are available in abundance, right? This is an industry that really really focuses on the things that it perceives will sell. Story sells, obviously. We all know that. Day one monger, 20 years in the business. Story sells. Let's be honest. Story will sell shit cheese. You can have a cheese that's not that great with an incredible story and sell the hell out of it. But there's a thing beyond that mongers have to be good at. If you're looking for a salesman, then you should go to a car dealership. Mongers have to be different than that. They're not just selling you a thing. They're facilitating this long transaction with you. They're giving you this piece of time, and you're giving it to them too, right? This customer is giving you this chunk of their day where they would like to be, helped in every sense of the word, helped. They want to see things. They want to talk about things, right? A super effective monger is somebody who can look at that person and figure out quickly, do they want the song and dance? Do they want this? Where is their knowledge base? How do you deal with this? These are things we learn over time behind the case. The trouble that I kept running into was we had these excellent mongers who had been with us a long time who eventually, because it's a small business and there's not a ton of upward mobility, over time they fell into other things. Oftentimes they were mongering on the side or by going to school, and then, suddenly you have this wonderful employee who is gone to do something else. Somebody else reaps the benefits, of that individual. Cheese industry loses another one. So I started thinking all the time about sort of how do you kind of start to combat this, right? A lot of industries have different things available to you where you can kind of self-motivate. You can stay involved, You're into some weird shit. You can find some people out there talking about that weird shit. But all the research that I did and everywhere that I sort of dug through, I just could never find, people really discussing cheese from a level of sales, right? From a real level of here is kind of a way to look at this job, mongering. Here is a standard that you need to be thinking about when you're mongering. Here is the pinnacle of what's really great. Maybe it doesn't mean it's appropriate. Not every shop is a butcher coat kind of cheese shop, right? But that struggle continued for many years as I got better and learned and worked harder to find new ways to do it just for myself. On the job, you learn as you go. Just like all of us, right? Every day you're learning. The best case scenario is you're next to a monger who's experienced and can really push you on that path. But we don't always get that. I certainly know that depending on where you are in the country, if you're the only cheese shop in town, then who are you looking at? Let's be honest. Who are you looking at? Nobody. You're just the best. You're just the best. You could suck. You could be the worst, but now you're the best. Only game in town. We're still in that spot in this industry where you can just be the guy. You can be the best day one because you're it. We need to definitely work past that shit to a place where if you are in anywhere, right, we can start having this conversation with each other. I am hunting and learning every single day. I'm looking for new answers and new ways to do things every single day when I wake up. And I'm still trying to find ways to self-motivate, myself and my crew. The only thing I want is for them to see this thing for why it can be great, always better than we saw it today. So not being able to find any resource for mongers, I thought for a number of years, sort of, this will pop up. I can be involved. I'm much too busy. I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? And eventually, I think I just came to the conclusion that it just wasn't going to happen. Nobody's going to do it. So that's why we find ourselves here today. Wouldn't it be nice to have a way to sort of have that quick connection, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes a week, every couple weeks, on your way to work, you can listen to it and start the conversation. Eventually, hopefully a question you're looking for gets answered. I'm hoping to approach this in a way that we're talking about the job itself. And we're going to do it two ways. So hopefully 2 times a month, there will be interviews with real boots on the ground mongers, people who are currently behind the case or are in management or have moved into either their own businesses or other businesses that deal heavily with cheese. Just a good way to see what else is available. Start talking to people and getting them to talk to each other and seeing, what are all the avenues of this industry for you personally. On the flip side, we're going to do 2 episodes monthly that deal with everything from your first day to being senior monger to being the shop runner and really tackle some regular day-to-day business of this job. Triage, storage, case basics, 101, everything that we can sort of wrap our mind around, up to merchandising, POS, back-end systems, inventories, all the really fun stuff. But hopefully we can start building a good database where if you are having a problem or struggling with something, you can go find this and at least get a few points to jump off on, to get started and to keep motivated through what can be super stressful shit. So that is what I'm hoping to do from this end of it. From that end of it, you can get involved. So if you are interested in doing an interview, we would love to talk to you. No matter what stage you're at in the career, please feel free to contact me and we can set something up. And I hope that we can find a way to, form friendships and community that can help people really find a reason and the motivation to get better and to stay in this industry. We're going to tackle it a few different ways. I really hope you come along with me. It is currently 5:24 on a Thursday. Welcome to episode number 1 of Monger.